Rachel Hayes pushed through the front door just past midnight, the hallway light catching the exhaustion carved into her posture. Denver's skyline behind her still glowed with the fading remnants of 4th of July fireworks, a few faint crackles echoing through the night like tired applause. She had missed every bit of the celebration, missed the bright lights, the grilled food, the laughter, because a demanding client at the law firm insisted on revising a contract line by line until the city outside fell quiet. Her briefcase felt twice as heavy as usual, digging into her fingers as she kicked off her shoes and let the silence of the apartment wrap around her. All she wanted was a hot shower and a few hours of uninterrupted sleep. But then she saw Lily's boots by the doorway, mud dried along the soles, the laces tangled, positioned in a way that didn't belong to a planned return home. A small chill rippled through her. Lily wasn't supposed to be here tonight. She was supposed to be celebrating at the family's mountain cabin in Summit Ridge, surrounded by cousins and laughter, sitting at the long wooden table she'd eaten at every 4th of July since childhood. Rachel's heartbeat quickened. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. Before I continue, kindly like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me where you're watching from. Rachel stepped farther into the apartment, her heartbeat thudding harder with every slow, careful step. The living room lamp was on, dim, warm, the kind of light Lily usually used when she read late at night, but nothing about the scene felt normal. Then Rachel saw her daughter curled tightly on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, travel sweater still on, hair slightly damp as if from mist or mountain air. Lily didn't move, didn't even flinch at the sound of the door closing. Her eyes were open, glassy, staring at nothing, the kind of stare that came from holding back emotions too big for her small body. Her backpack sat next to her, zipped neatly, the airline-style travel tag still dangling from the handle, untouched. She hadn't unpacked. She hadn't relaxed. She hadn't even taken off the sweater she'd worn for the trip. Every detail in the room pointed to the same truth. She had come home in distress, and she had come home fast. Rachel felt the edges of panic press against her ribs. Lily had been excited for this trip. Her first 4th of July away from home, her first time traveling alone, the first step toward the independence she'd been quietly building. For her to be here now meant something had broken that excitement completely. "Lily," Rachel whispered, her voice instinctively dropping into the soft, cautious tone she used when her daughter was fragile. She set her briefcase on the floor slowly, afraid sudden movement might cause Lily to retreat deeper into herself. Lily blinked once, almost mechanically, then looked up at her mother with eyes that appeared far older than 18, red around the edges, swollen from either tears or long hours of holding them back. "Hey, Mom," she murmured. She attempted a smile, but it faltered immediately, trembling at the corners before disappearing altogether. Rachel moved closer, but not too close, lowering herself onto the edge of the couch with deliberate gentleness. She left a small space between them, giving Lily room to come closer if she wanted to. "Sweetheart, why are you here?" she asked, her words careful but laced with growing fear. Lily let out a tiny, shaky breath, fingers tightening around a loose thread on her sleeve. She glanced at her backpack as though replaying the moment she decided to leave the cabin. Whatever happened, it had carved itself deep into her. Rachel waited, heart thudding, sensing that whatever Lily said next would shift something inside her permanently. "I got there," Lily said quietly, her voice thin and uneven. "On time. Just like we planned." She swallowed hard, eyes dropping to her hands. "I took the shuttle from Denver to Summit Ridge, like you told me. I walked up the trail toward the cabin. I even brought the pie and the cookies I baked yesterday. I don't know. I thought it would be nice." Her voice cracked on the last word. Rachel felt a cold pressure tighten in her chest. Lily wiped her cheek but kept talking, almost as if the words were spilling out faster than she could control them. Aunt Megan opened the door. She looked surprised. Not happy. Not even confused. Just annoyed. Like I'd shown up uninvited. Lily's breath hitched. She said the cabin was full this year. 28 people. Every seat taken. Every bed taken. She said they weren't expecting someone to come alone. Rachel's jaw clenched, but she forced herself to stay still. Lily twisted the loose thread around her finger. "I asked if I could at least come inside. Just to say hi. Just for a plate of food." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They told me there wasn't room for me. Not at the table. Not anywhere." Rachel felt her stomach drop as Lily continued, her voice trembling like she was reliving the humiliation in real time. "Everyone was there," Lily whispered. "Grandpa, Grandma, all the cousins. Chloe was in my usual seat, laughing with him like she'd always sat there. Nobody looked at me. Nobody even said my name. Aunt Megan just kept the door half open like she couldn't wait to close it again. Lily's hands shook as she wiped at her face, frustrated tears spilling anyway. I thought maybe someone would say something. Or offer me a chair. Or ask me to stay. But everyone just glanced at me, then looked away. Like I was a problem they didn't want to deal with. Rachel moved closer and finally wrapped an arm around her daughter, feeling Lily collapse into her side as though the strength had drained right out of her. I left, Lily said softly. I walked back down the trail until I found the shuttle driver heading toward Denver. He let me ride even though the route was closed. I got home and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to ruin your night. Rachel held her tighter, fury rising in her throat. You didn't ruin anything, she whispered. They did. Rachel stayed awake long after Lily had fallen asleep, her daughter still curled on the couch in the same sweater she arrived in, exhaustion finally overpowering heartbreak. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant noise of Denver preparing for dawn. Rachel sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the untouched pie Lily had brought, its foil still perfectly sealed, as if waiting for a celebration that never came. Every detail from Lily's story replayed in Rachel's mind. The open door, Megan's expression, the words no room, the 28 people who turned away a girl who arrived with hope and homemade cookies. Rachel had trusted her family with Lily. She had believed, foolishly, that even if they didn't like her, they would at least be kind to her daughter. That trust now felt shattered. A memory surfaced. 3 weeks earlier, Megan had called, asking Rachel to pay $20,000 for Chloe's wilderness camp. Rachel had refused. She hadn't thought much of it afterward, but now the pieces aligned with sickening clarity. The punishment hadn't been directed at Rachel. It had been taken out on Lily. As dawn crept across the sky, Rachel felt something inside her shift, quiet, sharp, irreversible. A key turned softly in the front door just as the morning light began washing over the living room. Mark stepped inside, tie loosened from a long night shift, his eyes immediately scanning the room. He noticed Rachel's tense shoulders, the half-eaten toast on a napkin, and the backpack still beside the couch before he even saw Lily sleeping there. What happened? He asked, voice low, already bracing for something terrible. Rachel explained everything. The crowded cabin, the closed door, the way Lily had been dismissed as though she were an inconvenience rather than family. Mark's jaw tightened, anger flickering beneath his calm exterior. She walked that trail alone, he asked, disbelief sharpening his voice. A few hours later, when Lily woke, the three of them sat together at the kitchen table. Lily told her father about the long walk, the fading barbecue smoke, her dying phone battery, and the sinking feeling that she had done something wrong simply by showing up. Mark reached for her hand. You didn't do anything wrong, he said firmly. Lily looked between them, vulnerable and unsure. So, what happens now? She whispered. Rachel exchanged a glance with Mark, a mutual question hanging between them. What came next? Rachel thought she knew the answer, but the clarity came fully when she looked at her daughter's tired eyes across the table. This wasn't about one barbecue. This was about years of enabling a family that took and took and took, then turned their cruelty onto an 18-year-old girl who had done nothing but show up with a smile and a homemade pie. Memories unfolded in rapid succession. Her father's dismissive jokes when she was a child, her mother's constant criticisms, Megan's entitled demands, and every time Rachel had said yes out of obligation instead of desire. Buying the mountain cabin for Megan had been her biggest mistake. She'd paid every mortgage installment, covered all utilities, fixed every repair, funded holidays, and co-signed bills her family promised to pay back next month. 7 years of financial support, emotional labor, and silence. All so they could continue living comfortably. And how had they repaid her? By humiliating her daughter. Rachel felt years of resentment and exhaustion crystallize into one simple truth. She was done. No more fixing. No more funding. No more pretending. This doesn't happen again, Rachel said quietly. Her voice wasn't angry. It was resolved. Mark nodded. Then we take back what's yours. That afternoon, after Mark left for work and Lily retreated to her room to rest, Rachel sat at her computer and opened a blank email. The cursor blinked steadily, waiting. Her hands trembled, not from doubt, but from the weight of finally drawing a boundary she should have drawn years ago. She typed slowly at first, then with increasing certainty. The email was clean, factual, and professional, the way she drafted letters for clients. She stated that the cabin was legally hers, deed and mortgage fully in her name. She outlined 7 years of payments and support. She explained that due to a breach of trust, no emotional details, no accusations, she was terminating her sister's access to the property. She gave Megan 60 days to vacate, remove all belongings, and return the keys. She attached copies of the deed and payment records. No insults. No anger. Just law. Just truth. When she finished, she read the message twice, inhaled deeply, and hit send before fear could talk her out of it. The whoosh of the email leaving felt like a gavel striking. Seconds later, her phone lit up with Megan's name. Rachel stared at the screen, then answered. Megan's voice came through sharp and furious. What is this supposed to be? Rachel stood in the quiet kitchen, phone pressed to her ear as Megan unleashed a torrent of indignation. You're evicting us? Over a holiday misunderstanding, she barked. Rachel forced her breathing to stay steady. It wasn't a misunderstanding, she replied. You turned Lily away. You told her there was no room, and she walked the trail alone. Megan scoffed, the sound dripping with dismissiveness. We had 28 people. She should have called. And you're blowing this out of proportion. Rachel pressed her palm to the counter, grounding herself. She did call. And even if she didn't, she's family. You don't turn her away. Megan's voice shifted to a mocking tone. There it is, the lawyer voice. Acting like you're above all of us. You're jealous, Rachel. Jealous that Chloe is going places. Rachel didn't rise to the bait. The cabin is mine. I gave it out of kindness. That kindness is over. Silence crackled on the line before Megan hissed. Mom and Dad are here too. You're evicting them. You're heartless. Rachel pictured Lily crying into her sweater, eating toast while her family feasted. I'm protecting my daughter, she said softly. Megan's voice sharpened into a scream. If you do this, you're dead to us. Then the line went dead. The silence that followed Megan's outburst settled heavily over the apartment, vibrating through the walls like the echo of a slammed door. Rachel slowly lowered the phone, staring at the blank screen as message after message began pouring in. Long paragraphs accusing her of betrayal. Short, sharp jabs meant to provoke guilt. Dramatic declarations about family loyalty and respect. She didn't open any of them. Instead, she made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, rereading her email to Megan with steady eyes. It was professional. Clear. Unemotional. Exactly what it needed to be. She was done being the family safety net, a net they had never once acknowledged until they needed it. As the afternoon settled around her, another call came in, this time from her mother. Rachel hesitated before answering. How could you do this to us? Her mother cried before Rachel could speak. After all we sacrificed for you. Rachel pinched the bridge of her nose. Mom, I paid the mortgage. The bills. The emergencies. I carried that cabin for years. Her mother sighed dramatically. It was just a full house. Lily should have checked. Don't make us villains. Rachel's jaw tightened. She walked miles alone on a holiday. And you didn't offer her food. Her mother's voice turned cold. Retract the email, or don't come back. Rachel closed her eyes. Goodbye. If you're still watching, kindly like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us where you're watching from. After the call ended, the apartment felt unusually still, as though the walls themselves were absorbing the weight of what had just been spoken. More messages arrived. Angry cousins, guilt-soaked aunts, relatives who barely called suddenly acting like guardians of family unity. Rachel ignored them all. She was done explaining herself. That evening, Lily emerged from her room, looking better rested but still fragile around the eyes. They are mad, aren't they? She asked softly. Rachel nodded, offering a tired smile. Very. Lily sank into the chair beside her. Mom, they didn't even let me sit at the table. Why do you owe them anything? The simplicity of the question cut deeper than any accusation her mother had thrown earlier. Rachel let out a long, shaky breath. I don't, she said finally. The truth felt like fresh air after years of stale expectation. Later that night, Rachel's colleague and friend, Daniel Brooks, called to check on her. She explained the situation, her family's reaction, her mother's ultimatum, Megan's threats. Daniel listened patiently, his voice warm but firm. They're in denial, Rachel. But legally, you're solid. If they don't leave, we file eviction. No drama. Just process. Rachel thanked him, grateful for the stability his voice offered in a day full of storms. The next morning brought a sense of clarity Rachel hadn't felt in years. She woke early, brewed coffee, and stared out at the spreading Denver sunrise, its colors brushing softly across the sky. She opened the eviction notice Daniel had prepared and reviewed it line by line, tightening a date here, clarifying a phrasing there, making sure every detail was exact. For once, she wasn't afraid of their reaction. She didn't fear being labeled selfish or dramatic. She didn't fear being the outsider, a title her parents had practically engraved into her childhood. She was simply done. When Lily joined her at the table, working on her college essay drafts, she glanced at the stack of legal documents.
"Is that for the cabin?" she asked.
Rachel nodded. "It's ready." Lily considered the papers for a long moment before whispering, "Good. They can't treat us like that and expect nothing to change." Her daughter's quiet strength filled Rachel with something new, something close to pride, but also relief. When another cousin texted, "Heard you're evicting Megan." "That's cold." Rachel didn't even flinch.
She deleted the message without opening it.
For the first time in her life, she wasn't chasing anyone's approval. She was choosing peace, hers and Lily's. A few days later, a loud knock rattled the door frame. Rachel checked the peephole and exhaled slowly when she saw her mother standing outside, wrapped in a thick robe, gripping a printed copy of the ultimatum email like it was evidence in a courtroom trial.
Rachel opened the door but didn't step aside.
Her mother pushed in anyway, indignation radiating off her like heat. "This," she said, waving the paper, "is unacceptable. You're really evicting your own family." Rachel folded her arms. "It's notice.
60 days. Nothing more."
Her mother laughed bitterly. "Over a small misunderstanding? You're tearing us apart." The word misunderstanding snapped something inside Rachel. "You told Lily there was no room," she said quietly.
"You let her walk back alone.
She ate toast for dinner while you all celebrated."
Her mother rolled her eyes. "She should have checked before coming."
"Don't exaggerate." Rachel stepped closer.
"She did check. And you still pushed her out."
Her mother tossed the email fragments onto the floor.
"Retract it. And help with Chloe's camp.
Then we can forgive you." Rachel stared at her, stunned by the entitlement.
"Forgive me," she whispered.
"For protecting my daughter."
Her mother's expression hardened.
"Your father says you're no daughter of his." Rachel's heart didn't waver. Then so be it. When the door finally slammed shut behind her mother, the apartment fell silent again, but this time the quiet felt different, less heavy, more clearing, as though the air itself had shifted. A moment later, Lily peeked from her room.
"Grandma came here?" she asked cautiously.
Rachel nodded, rubbing her temples.
"She tore up the email. Thought it would fix everything." Lily's eyebrows rose.
"Like tearing paper changes the truth."
Rachel let out a tired laugh. "Exactly."
Lily walked over and wrapped her arms around her mother, resting her head against her shoulder.
"Thank you for standing up for me," she whispered.
"I know it wasn't easy." Rachel hugged her back tightly. "It was easier than letting them hurt you again." That evening, Daniel checked in once more, and Rachel told him about her mother's visit.
He sighed sympathetically.
"They are escalating because they are losing control. Stand firm. We'll move forward legally when you're ready." Rachel thanked him and hung up. Minutes later, another long message from Megan arrived. "Fix this or you're out of the family."
Rachel deleted it without hesitation. For years, that threat had terrified her.
Now, it felt empty, weightless.
She no longer needed their acceptance. She had a daughter. She had peace.
And finally, she had boundaries.
The following week, Rachel made her decision.
She called Daniel early that morning, her voice steady in a way it hadn't been in years.
"I'm ready," she said.
"File the eviction."
Daniel didn't hesitate.
"I'll prepare the documents today. Once it's filed, they'll receive certified notice." After the call, Rachel logged into her real estate account and listed the cabin for sale. Not out of revenge, out of closure, out of freedom. Within days, interest poured in, and a young Denver family made an offer. They wanted the fresh mountain air, the wraparound porch, the quiet mornings with pine-scented breezes. "Vacant possession required," the agent reminded her gently.
Rachel nodded. She understood exactly what that meant.
When Daniel filed the eviction paperwork, certified mail went out to Summit Ridge. Megan received it within 48 hours, and another storm of calls and messages exploded across Rachel's phone, which she ignored with practiced ease. A court date was set for Summit Ridge, but Rachel didn't attend. Daniel handled everything. Later, he called to report the outcome. They argued loudly, he said, claimed the cabin was practically theirs. But the judge reviewed the deed and the payment history. It wasn't even close.
His voice warmed. Eviction granted.
10 days to vacate. Rachel closed her eyes, exhaling years of weight. The cabin sold quickly after the ruling, every signature transferring ownership pulling Rachel further from the version of herself who once believed love meant sacrifice without limit. The sale proceeds went directly into Lily's college fund, untouchable, secure, a foundation Lily could build a future on without fear of sabotage or entitlement.
But the ripple effects were immediate.
With Megan forced out of the cabin, the emotional and financial safety net she depended on vanished overnight. Rachel heard bits and pieces from distant relatives. Megan had moved Rachel's parents into her cramped rental in a nearby mountain town, claiming she was stepping up for family while painting Rachel as heartless.
Rachel didn't react. She didn't defend herself.
She didn't send explanations or documents. She owed them nothing, not energy, not justification, not time. But within a single week, cracks formed.
Her father refused to share a bathroom.
Her mother complained that the bedroom was too small.
The kids were too loud.
The noise too constant. Soon, Rachel received a voicemail from Megan, her voice frayed. "I can't do this, Rachel. They are driving me insane. You need to help. Find them a better rental. Pay the deposit. It's the least you can do." Rachel listened once, then deleted it. That evening, she played Megan's voicemail for Mark and Lily at the dinner table. Lily let out a soft, incredulous laugh. "The least you can do," she repeated. "After everything." Rachel shrugged, almost amused by the absurdity.
Apparently.
She typed a brief message to Megan, just 2 words, no. Nothing more.
No explanation. No apology.
No loophole for manipulation. Just truth. Days later, more news filtered through the extended family grapevine. Megan had kicked their parents out as well, unable to handle their constant complaints and demands. Rachel's parents had moved into a rundown rental on the outskirts of town, far from Summit Ridge's mountain charm and far from the comfort they once enjoyed at Rachel's expense. They reached out to relatives for sympathy, but by then, Rachel had already shared the full documentation with those who asked. The mortgage receipts, the utility bills, the medical expenses she'd covered, the eviction ruling, the story of what happened to Lily on the 4th of July.
The narrative shifted swiftly. Sympathy evaporated.
Those who once judged Rachel now fell silent, confronted by the truth of her sacrifice and the cruelty she'd endured.
For the first time, Rachel wasn't the one being questioned. Her family was.
As the days turned into weeks, the constant calls and texts slowed, though they never stopped entirely. Every few days, someone from the extended family would reach out, an aunt, a cousin, an in-law, carefully phrasing their messages as if they were neutral observers.
They say you abandoned them. They say you tore the family apart. They say they are struggling.
But Rachel no longer felt the familiar tug of guilt. She didn't respond to any of them.
She didn't need to.
Life in the apartment grew peaceful, shockingly peaceful, without the constant pressure of unexpected bills or emotional manipulation. Lily thrived in the quiet, pouring her energy into her college applications, her essays full of determination and clarity. Rachel noticed the way her daughter walked with straighter shoulders now, how her laughter returned in small but steady waves. Mark seemed lighter too, his eyes no longer shadowed by worry over Rachel's family draining them dry. One evening, as Rachel reviewed documents for work, a message from an unknown number lit up her phone. "Hope you're proud of what you've done." Without hesitation, Rachel deleted it. Lily, passing by, raised an eyebrow.
"Them again?" she asked gently. Rachel nodded. "Probably."
Lily smiled softly. "Good. Let it go." Months passed, then seasons. Time widened the distance between Rachel and the people who had once consumed her life. Through distant relatives, she occasionally heard what became of them. Megan bouncing between unstable jobs, their parents struggling to maintain their old habits on fixed pensions, their once grand opinions of themselves collapsing under the reality of cramped rentals and real-world responsibility. The family gatherings they used to post about online disappeared. The lavish photos vanished. The complaints grew quieter as people slowly stopped listening. But none of it brought Rachel satisfaction. Their downfall wasn't her victory, It was simply the consequence of their choices finally meeting the real world. Rachel focused instead on rebuilding her own life. Lily thrived as an environmental science major, interning deep in the Rockies, her confidence blooming in ways that made Rachel teary-eyed when she least expected it. One warm summer evening nearly 2 years later, the two of them sat on a porch overlooking the Denver skyline, sipping iced tea as soft wind moved through the trees. Lily leaned back and said, "That walk down the trail, it hurt.
But it showed me who really has my back."
Rachel squeezed her hand. "You're stronger than they ever knew."
Lily smiled.
"So are you." One afternoon, as Rachel sorted through mail on the kitchen counter, she noticed a small, unfamiliar envelope tucked between utility statements and work documents. The return address made her pause. It was from the mountain town where her parents now lived. She opened it slowly, half expecting anger, half expecting manipulation. Inside was a handwritten letter from her mother, the pages creased sharply as though folded with irritation rather than care. The words were predictable. No apology, no acknowledgement of Lily, no admission of the pain they caused. Instead, it begged Rachel to come back and fix the family, insisting things had fallen apart without her support. As Rachel read the opening lines, she felt nothing.
Not anger, not guilt, not sadness. Just clarity.
She folded the letter neatly, walked to the trash bin, and dropped it in without hesitation. When Lily came home later and saw the discarded envelope, she asked softly, "More guilt?"
Rachel nodded with a small smile. "But it ends with me."
They stepped onto the porch together, breathing in the cool, open air of a life no longer dictated by other people's demands. Rachel felt something she hadn't in decades. She felt free. Rachel's world grew calmer in the months that followed, intentionally quiet, beautifully ordinary, and filled with moments she had once been too drained to enjoy. She still worked long hours at the firm, but the exhaustion came from ambition, not obligation. Mark teased her that she smiled more now, that the house felt warmer, that Lily glowed brighter every day she matured into her independence.
And Rachel noticed it too.
She noticed the quiet peace in their home. The dinner conversations about Lily's internship, the late-night jokes with Mark, the absence of sudden crises that used to erupt whenever her phone buzzed. The weight she had carried for years had finally dissolved, replaced by something steadier, healthier. Occasionally, she heard through distant relatives that her parents and sister were still moving from one temporary situation to another, but Rachel didn't chase updates. Their struggles were no longer her responsibility. Their choices no longer reached into her life. For the first time, she was building a future based on love rather than guilt, on respect rather than fear. And Lily, strong, grounded, resilient, was living proof that breaking generational patterns wasn't destruction.
It was healing.
One late evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and painted Denver in soft gold, Rachel stood on the porch with Mark and Lily. The city lights blinked awake below them, quiet and steady. Lily slipped her arm through hers, leaning comfortably against her side. "Mom," she said gently, "I'm really glad you chose us." Rachel felt her heart swell, not with pride, but with a deep, peaceful certainty she had never known before.
"I chose what was right," she replied.
"I chose what should have been ours all along." She looked out at the fading horizon, remembering the night Lily came home, frightened, dismissed, carrying a pie she'd never shared. That night had broken something, yes, but it had also revealed everything Rachel needed to see. Her family had told Lily there was no room for her at their table. And in doing so, they had unknowingly freed Rachel from the chains she'd carried her entire life. She squeezed Lily's hand, then Mark's, feeling the calm strength of the family she built, not the one she escaped. "We're okay now," Rachel whispered. "Better than okay." And as the last light settled over the mountains, she knew with absolute certainty, choosing peace hadn't made her heartless. It had finally made her whole. Thanks for watching to the end. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us where you're watching from. More powerful stories are coming your way.